Welcome to the Shade and Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you for tuning in. Now, today is a very special day for me. Today, my children, my twins, turned 7 years old. So, happy birthday to my babies. Daddy loves you very much so. And when I woke up this morning, I put together just a slideshow of the pictures and things that we've accumulated over these past 7 years, and put it to music to make a little short video to put out on Facebook so my family and friends can enjoy this moment with me, to celebrate their very young lives thus far with the hopes and expectations that they will have many, many, many more. And as I was doing this, it got me to thinking about the idea of fatherhood. It got me to thinking about my mindset of where I was when I didn't have any kids versus when I had my first one, up until now, where I'm here now. And thinking back, before I had children, I was just a wild ass, selfish ass dude. It was me first, me last, and I didn't give a damn about anybody else for the most part. Now, I've always had love for people, and I did what I could to help anybody that I could or whatever. But when it came down to it, if it's you or me, goddamn it, it was me. And that's just what it was. But fatherhood changed my whole outlook on life. Fatherhood changed everything. It made me slow down. I was goddamn it on the highway to hell, full speed with gasoline draws on, smoking this goddamn blunt before fatherhood. And just thinking about the change that fatherhood brings, or should bring, I should say, I'm just amazed by what it does and what it did for me. Now, my kids are the best things that ever happened to me outside of getting married and my wife and all of that. And they are the most important things in my life. Like, everything else can come and go, but they will always be a part of me. Whether they're 7, 17, or 70. But I doubt I'll still be at this motherfucker when they hit 70, but whatever. But the point is, they have allowed me to morph and grow into something that 20 years ago, 15 years ago probably, I'd have never even thought about. And I'm just being completely real. And thinking about myself and my children, it also made me think about black fatherhood in general and how we are perceived in today's society. And right now, it's not good. Honestly, the perception of black men in general, whether it's a father or whatever, is not good. We are seen as animals. We are seen as aggressive, violent, non-caring, subhuman individuals in the eyes of so many. Except for 99% of black women. They love us unconditionally. They take care of us without pause, and that's why I love black women so goddamn much. And for you non-black women who are hearing this, just because I say I love black women doesn't mean I hate you guys. Don't do that. I hate when y'all do that. But anyway, So we've all heard the stereotypes. We've seen it on TV. We've read it in newspapers. We've heard it on the radio. We've seen it on the internet that the black father is an absentee father. And quite honestly, again, that is straight up bullshit. I got a lot of friends with kids, and they are a part of their lives, their everyday lives, not just a once a month child support payment or show up here and there to take you fishing or take you to the mall and buy you some shoes. I'm talking about real life, everyday living. I got homeboys that's changing diapers and braiding hair and goddamn going to cheerleading practice and soccer practice and football practice and PTA meetings. All that shit. I do all that shit. Now, I don't do it as much as my wife does, but I also work a bunch of hours. But when I'm free and I'm off, I dedicate a lot of my time to my children because that's what I'm supposed to do, and also to give my wife a break. I mean, she does the majority of things with them, and she deserves a break too, so I do what I'm supposed to do in that regards. But back to where I was going. As I said, there's this idea that's perpetuated in the media that we aren't around, that we don't take care of our kids, we just make them and leave them. And I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit you and say that it's not true, that it doesn't happen in the black community. Hell, it happens in every fucking community. Every race and creed or whatever, you got some deadbeat ass dudes. That's just them. It doesn't matter the color. A deadbeat is a deadbeat regardless of what color they are. That's just the realness of it. But my problem is like I said earlier, with the media and how we as black men are represented in mainstream culture, mainstream media. And the idea of a strong black father is so absent in so many avenues that it's ridiculous. Now, you do have some TV shows that show strong fathers. Like right now, one of my favorite shows that I'm watching on television is Black Lightning. Now, yeah, he's a superhero and all of that, but at the heart of it, he is a strong black man who's fighting for his black kids, who's fighting for the black kids in his community, and we need to see more of that. I like the character on This Is Us, another strong black man who's taking care of his family, taking care of his responsibilities. And again, we are here. We are present every day. But the idea of the deadbeat is constantly around us. And at times we are at fault for that because that's what we perpetuate a lot of times ourselves, instead of, saying, fuck no, I'm not playing that role. Guys do what they got to do, and it is what it is, but they have to have the understanding of the things that they represent hurt the culture overall. And, the fact that strong black men are absent for the most part in mainstream media and in the culture, the broader culture itself, it says less about us as black men and more about who's heading these companies, it says more about who's putting this shit out and what they feel and think about black men. And, as I was thinking more and more about, life and fatherhood and what goes on, and having these memories that I've had with my children since they were born and all these happy memories, I was also gripped with fear. Especially for my black son. And I remember when I was maybe 10, 11 years old, my grandfather, who, by the way, was a as woke as anybody that I've ever met. He was a straight shooter who didn't bullshit with telling us the truth about life, whether it's black life or interactions with white people or anybody. He ain't pull no punches. He ain't cut no goddamn corners. Well, I remember as a child him telling me, son, you were born with 3 strikes. You're young, you're male, and you're black, and you will always have a target on your back. And he used to tell us, all of us, this all of the time. And back then as a child, you really didn't grasp what he was saying, because you go to school and you have 1 or 2 little white friends that you're playing with, and kids were just kids. But as I got older and started realizing the ways of the world and replaying everything that he was telling me in my head and seeing this in my mind's eye, he was right. And sadly, almost 30 years later, he's still right. And I dread the moment that I have to have this same goddamn talk with my 7-year-old son. It's unfair that I have to have this talk with my son. It's unfair that I have to talk to him about how to interact with the police. It's unfair that I have to drill into his head, if you get stopped, be quiet and just survive the encounter. And just that survive the encounter statement, that is something that we, not just black males, but we as black people, we have to deal with that every day. We are always in survival mode. We look at everything as survival. Survive the encounter. Survive, at the workplace. Surviving at school. Surviving at life in general. And don't get me wrong, everybody struggles. Struggle has no confines. It has no borders. Everyone struggles, but there is differences in the struggles. We are not running the same race, period. But anyways, and I'm going off on a tangent or whatever, but back to being scared for my son. Now, as I was sitting there looking at these pictures scroll across the screen, and my feeling went from happiness to I was to sadness to anger, and it's because of the things that I'm seeing today that hadn't really changed much. And what I'm talking about, I call the new Trail of Tears. Now, most of you should be familiar with the Trail of Tears. Cherokee Indians being relocated, murdered, starved, walked thousands of miles away from your homeland. Now, this Trail of Tears isn't what I'm talking about. It's a different Trail of Tears. But what I'm talking about is the tears, the crocodile tears of white women. And I call it the Trail of Tears because those tears have led to so much death and destruction, just like the original Trail of Tears. And that's the truth of the matter. Now, we have had so many historical references of this. I mean, you can go back to times of slavery where black men were treated like meat and treated as an object, a commodity, not a person, and were made to have sex with with white women, and when they get caught, the first thing they do is say, he raped me. And guess what? He's hanged. He's murdered. He's shot, stabbed, castrated. His family is exiled. His family is killed. His family is hurt. Look at one of the most famous and infamous cases of white women crocodile tears, Emmett Till. And I talked about the murder of Emmett Till a few weeks ago when I did an episode on the anniversary of his death. But that's one of the ultimate cases of crocodile tears leading to death and destruction. That damn near destroyed a family. Now, it did galvanize the civil rights movement. If you can point to one good thing that came out of it, that's it. You look at Black Wall Street again. You have a situation where a white woman said that a black man attempted to do something to her in an elevator, and it led to the destruction of an entire community. Homes, jobs, businesses, families. I mean, they dropping goddamn bombs over Tulsa. All because of a white lie. So, you know, and there's so many more. We've seen it in movies with Rosewood. We have seen it everywhere. Hell, look at Kobe Bryant. Look at Kobe Bryant. Now he had sex with a woman. That's neither here nor there. But she was lying, and she almost ruined this man's life. Now he played a part in it for cheating on his wife, but that is what it is, you know. But she was trying to put him under the jail with a lie. So I'm thinking about all of that, and then, you know, you pick up your phone today, or you turn on the news today, or you get on Facebook, which is the new news. Twitter, that's news. And I have seen so many stories of these crocodile tears causing problems. I'll give you a few examples. So you have the incident at the bodega in New York. I can't remember if it was Queens or whatever it was. Well, you have a young mother with her son and her daughter leaving out of the store, and this white lady says that this young man, in front of his mother apparently, grabbed her long flat ass, groped her. Well, instead of her turning around and talking to this mother, she calls the police. And she puts on this show that he attacked her, this and that, when all this kid did was just walk past her, and either his backpack brushed up against her, or the bag he was carrying, or whatever it was. And thank goodness for surveillance cameras. Thank goodness for the digital age where we have cameras readily available and can record all of this shit. Because if we didn't, there would be so many more dead black men, or imprisoned black men, ostracized black men. But anyways, so the surveillance footage proved that she was bullshitting, full of bullshit. And she attempted to apologize. And that's fine. But I'm like the mother. She said she ain't accepting that shit. And I personally don't blame her. You automatically jump to calling your personal attack dogs on a young boy for nothing. Instead of trying to talk to the mother, you try to get him into the system. So fuck her. And I agree with the mother completely. So then you got the situation in St. Louis at the luxury apartment building. This brother who's paying rent there, living that mind his goddamn business, living his best life, gets accosted at the door by Hallway Hillary, and just like clockwork, she felt threatened just by his mere presence, and she calls the police. And what makes that situation so sad, what angered me about that, was the fact that she followed this man from the first floor up to his floor, all the way to his door, witnessed this man unlock the door, shut the door in her face, and she still called the goddamn cops. She still called the police on this man. And throughout this whole exchange, she's talking about she wanted to know her neighbors and all of that shit. I've lived in apartments before for a couple years, and I could tell you, I didn't know, maybe out of the 15, 20 people around me, I knew 2 of them, and they stayed right across from us, and we all used to party and smoke weed together. That's it. But this lady, called the cops on them, and then what made it worse, the cops show up, and instead of busting her ass, the cops asked this man, well, why didn't you just show her what she wanted to see? For what? Fuck her. That made it even worse to me. Like, we have to prove to just random people that we belong, that we should be able to exist in the same space that they are in. That's bullshit. And on that note, whoever that cop was, fuck that cop. He's a piece of shit too. So now you got another situation that I saw a couple days ago. A black guy at his son's soccer game. And what makes this story so interesting to me is that it was brought to attention of everybody by a white woman. And I just, that that right there in itself is the only way that we will be able to stop this bullshit, is by other white women standing up for black people to other white women who's doing this bullshit. Now, we saw it in the Oakland situation with Permit Patty, how she played the victim and wanted to cry after she started all that bullshit. We saw it with the one with calling the police on the little girl with the waters. We've seen it over and over and over again. But anyways, so this situation at the soccer game, this brother was watching his son play, something happened or whatever. His son was arguing the calls, and he went to his son and talked to his son and told his son, hey, stop it. The referee is right. Respect the ref. This, that, and the third. And he was attacked pretty much by this lady on the golf cart who just wouldn't leave this man alone, who kept pestering this man. And this man, in the spirit of protecting himself and protecting his son, said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just leave to not create any problems. I'm done with it. And with him saying that, this bitch calls the cops. She calls the police. And that's what they do. I'll cover it more in detail in Colonizer Nonsense. But right now, but that's exactly what they do. And it is tiring. The shit is very, very, very tiring. It's old. I'm tired. We're all tired of seeing these various white women weaponize their tears to oppress and assert their power over black people and other people of color. It ain't just black people they getting. They're doing it to everybody. And it's bullshit. And it stays in the headlines. It is all across the country. It's crazy. We are constantly facing a continuous anti-blackness waves of feelings at the hands of white people calling the police for just simply living. Like like I said earlier, for simply trying to exist in the same spaces that they exist in. And that shit needs to stop, and stop quickly. So, like I said, man, this, what they're doing with these crocodile tears, with this using their weaponized tears as a means to garner sympathy and trust or whatever, and using that in conjunction with calling the police on black people, is the new Trail of Tears. Because at the end of the day, you know, every time the police is called on someone's black, there is a high probability that something bad will happen, whether it's death or jail. You know, more often than not, the outcome won't be good. And it all usually starts from a goddamn lie, from the tears of white women, the crocodile tears. And the sad part about it is we shedding tears too, and it's off of real sadness from what the fuck just happened. And whether they want to admit it or not, the fabric of this country, the fabric of America, is permanently stained with the blood of black people, all because of the weaponized crocodile tears of white women. And that right there is the new Trail of Tears. So the midterm elections are rapidly approaching. We have maybe 16, 17 days until it's time to vote. And for those of you who have listened to me since the beginning, you know how I have always talked about the importance of voting, especially in the local and state level. And this year's vote, this year's midterms are probably one of the most important midterms that I have ever seen in my entire voting life. Very, very important. There's also a lot of historic implications involved with this, a lot of racial implications involved with this season of voting. And I encourage anybody, whether you are Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, whatever, I encourage you to get out there and make your voice heard, make your vote count, because these people, especially the local and state, are really going to affect us the most. Really. Speaking of which, if you are in the Jackson, Mississippi area, on October the 30th, we are having a judicial review at Freelawns, where the local judicial candidates will be available to talk about themselves, answer questions about their stance, what they plan to do moving forward. This gives you, the community, a hands-on experience and a chance to talk directly to these candidates, to hold them responsible to their constituents. So, October 30th, Jackson, Mississippi, at Freelawns. Make sure you check it out. Well, a lot has been talked about the Electoral College, getting rid of it, and so on and so forth. I mean, honestly, without the Electoral College, we wouldn't have the orange buffoon, the orange embarrassment, shade 45 that we have right now, because apparently the electoral vote renders the public opinion null and void. But that's another argument for those who are more inclined to talk about that. But right now, I just want to give you 9 midterm races with Electoral College implications. And these really matter because they will have a major impact on the election cycles to come. Now, this fall, voters will be installing 30 governors and more than 800 legislators that will be responsible for redrawing voting districts in 3 years. And this redrawing will have a major impact in each and every state in our country. This is according to the National Conference of State Legislators. And this whole redistricting thing, this whole process happens every decade. And the people that are involved with that process, in many cases, the local legislators, will be the ones that are redrawing all of these lines. And many of these governors will have the power of veto or nix to approve these redrawn districts. And that will complicate a lot of things. But some of the key governor races that would have veto power over the state's redrawn district lines are Oregon. They can gain a vote. It's a close race between Democratic Governor Kate Brown and Republican challenger Newt Bueller. Florida, matter of fact, in Florida, for those of you in Florida listening, y'all go out and support Andrew Gillum. Support that brother. They need to flip Florida anyway. Them motherfuckers got problems. But anyways, Democrat Andrew Gillum is facing GOP Representative Ron DeSantis, a staunch and avid Trump supporter. He wants to build a wall every goddamn where. Ohio will lose a vote. It's between Democratic Richard Cordray, and Republican Mike DeWine. And Michigan has an open race for governor between Democrat Gretchen Whitmer and Republican Bill Schuette. There's also some key House races, and as well as key Senate races. None more key than I believe Florida. You got the Democrats hoping to flip 5 seats and gain the majority in the Florida Senate. And there's so many more I can talk about. Speaking, I didn't mention Georgia, but please get out and vote in Georgia. Support Miss Stacey Abrams, Mississippi's own. I believe she is a legit candidate, a very smart, very hardworking woman who has the entire constituency of Georgia on her mind, not just Democrats. I believe she is there for the people of Georgia, black, white, and other. So make sure y'all get out there and vote for Miss Stacey Abrams. And speaking of Georgia, right now they got a lot of talk going on about voter suppression, and it's nearly 53,000 people in Georgia whose voter registrations have been frozen or are pending. And the thing that sparked a lot of interest is that these votes are mostly in the urban parts of the state. 98% of those names that's on that list hail from just 10 counties, and all of them are connected to Georgia's most urban areas. Now, like say, for instance, Gwinnett County, it's in Atlanta's northeast suburbs. It only has a black population of 25%, yet 35% of the voter registrations challenged come from black folks. Gwinnett also has a population that's 20% Latino, and roughly 20% of those voter registrations that have been flagged are Latino. Now, Georgia's getting sued by civil rights organizations. They're suing Secretary of State Brian Kemp, who's actually running against Miss Abrams. He's presiding over the state elections while running as a Republican nominee for governor. I think that's kind of strange, me myself, but I'm not a political aficionado and don't know the legality of it or how legit this shit is, but that seems a little odd to me. Now, this isn't the first time that a civil rights organization has sued the state. They sued them last year. And ironically, well, not ironically, but most notably, the candidate that I talked about earlier, Kemp, he was named as a defendant again, and this is over the redistricting move that they're doing. And this civil rights organization argued that that it constituted an unlawful racial gerrymander, which is in direct violation of the Voting Rights Act. And speaking of that, with Kavanaugh being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice, I suspect that they'll be attacking every single goddamn act and right that affects black people. That's just my opinion. But, moving on. Now, a judge ruled earlier this year on that case and said she found that the evidence for racial gerrymandering is compelling. And while they hadn't come to a resolution, the litigation is still pending. Now, it should be noted that this possible case of gerrymandering is the product of a third wave of redistricting conducted by Republicans in Georgia since 2010. So, y'all can look it up and really read into it, delve into it, but Georgia got a lot of shit going on, man. They are doing whatever they can, been doing whatever they can to keep that shit a red state. So get y'all asses out and vote. I'm telling you, because it's real right now, and we, as a culture, as a community, are under attack. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around for this week's episode of Colonizing Nonsense. My first colonizer nonsense moment takes me to the Show Me State, Missouri. And man, this motherfucker just showed me she racist as hell. Headline: Hallway Hillary has been fired after harassing a black man for entering his St. Louis loft. Hallway Hillary. I love the internet. So, over the last weekend, a video surfaced of a white woman refusing to let a black man into his own downtown St. Louis loft.
You what?
The brother's name, Mr. De'Arian Tolles, was returning home late from work when Hillary Brooke Thornton, Hallway Hillary, who lives on the third floor of the same building, demanded proof before she let him in the building. Now, before I go on, first of all, this bitch ain't the doorman, the doorwoman, or whatever you want to call it. She don't even work for the people who own the building. She just lives there. And she trying to play goddamn police. But anyways, so in the video, you can hear the brother telling Hillary, "You blocking me from getting into my building. This is my building as well. So I need for you to get the fuck out of the way," basically. So after he moved past her, and quite honestly, I'm glad the brother didn't smack the shit out of her, because he would have been under the jail, or better yet, under the goddamn ground once she laid it on thick with the victimization. But anyways, after he tried to move past her, she followed this man, forced her way onto the elevator and to the front door of his apartment. Now, it seems to me like she wanted some goddamn dick, but I could be wrong. So the guy didn't show his key fob or anything like that, but he did go to the apartment door, unlock the motherfucker, and she still stood there. Now she was talking about she just wanted to meet all her neighbors, this, that, and the third. And my boy was like, "Bitch, fuck you," and he slammed the door in the face. And this motherfucker had the audacity to say, "Wow," like he did her wrong. Oh man, you motherfuckers killed me. So anyway, this woman, she works for a company called Tribeca that manages apartments, and the apartments released a statement about her. They said, and I quote, "Tribeca STL has recently shared a video containing a disturbing interaction that we believe is important to clarify. The video did involve one of our employees, but the event did not take place at Tribeca STL and did not involve one of our tenants." Basically, they getting ready to drop the hammer on her ass and say, "Look, we can't really fuck with you the long way, bitch, your ass is fired." But check this out. What makes this shit even worse is she's married to a black man. Well, they separated, and even he got into the mix and dropped his own goddamn diss video like, look, me and her been separated over a year. I don't really fuck with her either. That bitch is crazy. And the funny part about it is you can tell this nigga really hated her ass. He didn't even call her by her name. He called her the individual. Oh man, she trying to block that brother from getting into his luxury apartment with no job and a badass rep. Your ass gonna get blocked real soon. My next colonizer nonsense moment takes me to New York City, where footage arose of a woman seen arguing with the boy's mother as she accuses him of grabbing her backside. Headline: Woman dubbed Cornerstone Caroline faces backlash after falsely accusing a 9-year-old boy of sexual assault. So, in this footage that we see, a woman is calling the cops. She's arguing with the mother, talking about her 9-year-old son grabbed her long, flat ass. Oh, man. This woman named Teresa Klein has been dubbed Cornerstone Caroline after she was shown in footage calling the police on 9-year-old Jeremiah Harvey. Now, this video went viral quick. It had over 7 million views since it was posted last Wednesday. Now, this woman is arguing with this boy's mother, who is crying his eyes out. The shit made me mad and sad all at the same goddamn time, because that just shows the fear that we have of the police indoctrinated in us, even at a young age, when we ain't even do nothing. Fucking ridiculous. Now, his mama was going back and forth with this lady, and as she's talking to the authorities about the incident. Now, honestly, I wish the mama would have slapped all hell out this motherfucker's mouth and kicked her when she fell. But she had her children with her, so I understand. But in this call, this woman told the police, and I quote, "I was just sexually assaulted by a child." What the fuck? Are you serious? And it's a good thing that the police never arrived on the scene. You know, so there's really no proof that she called 911, but we all know she did. Well, anyway, 2 days after the incident, she took her ugly, long-booted, flat-booty ass back to that bodega, and she watched the surveillance footage that clearly showed that 9-year-old Jeremiah did not grab her at all, and that it was most likely his backpack that brushed against her. His hands were in clear, plain view as he's walking out in front of his mama. So now the locals came and showed up, and they surrounded her ass, and she's telling the camera crew that she was mistaken, and you know, she's sorry, she's trying to apologize, she said she was wrong, but the mother was like, fuck that, and I'm glad she did. I hope they kick her ass out of the neighborhood, because the shit she doing is very dangerous. My final colonizer nonsense moment takes me to the home of Mickey and Minnie and apparently racist colonizers who can't seem to stay the fuck up out of this segment each and every week. Florida. Headline: White woman dubbed Golf Cart Gail. Golf Cart Gail? Calls the police on black father at a soccer game. Now, an attendant at a teen soccer game in Florida over last weekend called the police on the father who was instructing his own son from the sidelines in what many, including myself and anybody with a goddamn brain, are calling the latest example of a white woman dialing 911 on a black person who had done nothing wrong. Like I said in the first segment, trail of goddamn tears. But anyway, Ginger Williams, who was watching the game, she posted the photos of the incident on Facebook with the heading, "Soccer While Black." So I guess we can add that to the ever-growing list of things that we can't do while black. You know, living, breathing, walking, talking, Starbucks, work, moving, school, so on, so forth. You know the drill. So She said that a woman in a golf cart at the game in St. John's County, told a black father that his harassment won't be tolerated, even though he wasn't harassing a goddamn soul. This black man was actually talking to his son and telling his son to not argue with the refs, that the ref is right to just play. God damn. So when the police showed up, and I will give the cop credit, he stood there and listened. He didn't look to be agitating the situation, which a lot of times that just doesn't happen. But the father informed the marshal that he was only speaking to his son and not the referee, which isn't allowed in sports nowadays. But Golf Cart Gail would not let this shit go. Wouldn't let it go at all. Even the woman who filmed this, she said, and I quote, "I started filming because she would not leave the father alone. There was no reason for her to call the cops." That's one white woman talking about another one, which is what we need more of anyway to stop this bullshit. So, make a long story short, the father said, "Fuck it, I'ma leave, I'ma go on about my business because I don't want any trouble." And guess what? He still got trouble anyway because of Golf Cart Gail. That they passed some type of national legislature that will fine or even jail people for wasting community resources and calling the cops unnecessarily on black people not doing anything. Not only are they endangering innocent citizens, they also are endangering the lives of police, because one day they gonna call the cops on somebody who really ain't there for the shits. On October 16, 1995, there was a huge gathering en masse of African American men in Washington, D.C. What I'm talking about was the Million Man March. Now, this march was called by Louis Farrakhan. It was held on the grounds and around the National Mall. It was organized by the National African American Leadership Summit, a leading group of civil rights activists, and the Nation of Islam, working with scores of civil rights organizations, including many local chapters of the NAACP. Now, one of the primary motivating factors for this march was to take in place black issues back on the nation's political agenda. Now, in the aftermath of the Republican Party's 1994 congressional election victories and the continued success of their campaign platform, some African American leaders felt the social and economic issues facing the black community fell by the wayside of policy debates, which is still the same way today. I mean, hell, 23 years later, we still doing the same shit, still facing the same shit. Now, then, at the time of the march, black folks faced unemployment rates nearly twice that of white Americans, a poverty rate of more than 40%, and a median family income that was about 58% of the median for white households. More than 11% of all black males were unemployed, and for those aged 16 to 19, the number of unemployed had climbed to over 50%. And, you know, just looking back on it and reading those numbers that I just read off, the adage of the more things change, the more they stay the same, feels very relevant right now. But, you know, I remember I was 16 maybe, somewhere up in there, 16 going on 17, and I really wished I could have went, but you know, moms wasn't hearing that shit, plus I couldn't afford it. But you know, it served its purpose. It brought black injustices to the forefront, and you know, I was very appreciative of it. You know, seeing it on TV, that sparked something in me, seeing all those brothers together, non-violently, you know, doing something productive to promote black unity, promote black awareness, to promote economic growth, education growth, all of that for black people. So shout out to the organizers of the Million Man March. Also, this week in culture, history, I want to take a moment to pay homage and give my respect to Mr. Tommy Smith and Mr. John Carlos. Now, I know a lot of you may not know those names. They aren't burned into your memory. But I can tell you what, the iconic image of these two guys, you all have seen. And what I'm talking about took place 50 years ago at the Mexico City Olympics. In this picture that we've all seen, you see two brothers with a raised fist on the Olympic podium. Well, those two brothers are Mr. Tommy Smith and Mr. John Carlos. And just recently, they held a 50th anniversary event to celebrate these two guys and their activism through sports. And, you know, right now, we all know about a certain individual who has a huge following, a huge shitstorm around him with his activism in sports. Again, the more things change, the more things stay the same. So, just like Colin, these two guys were blackballed, ostracized, and so on and so forth. But they never wavered. And these two guys will forever be linked together in history by their raised fists on that metal podium after the 200-meter final. So, shout out once again to Mr. Tommy Smith and Mr. John Carlos. And this has been this week's segment of For the Culture. NBA season tipped off, and man, it started with a bang. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Portland Trail Blazers started their game with back-to-back-to-back monster dunks between LeBron James and Damian Lillard. Now, Los Angeles lost this game, which was no surprise to anybody, considering the team is young and they're still trying to get their chemistry together. But I tell you what, it looks pretty promising in Los Angeles. And speaking of that, man, look, you Los Angeles Lakers fans, y'all need to cut this bullshit out. How the hell do you say you love the Lakers, you cheer for the Lakers, but you hate LeBron and hope he fails? If that ain't the most ignorant shit I ever heard of, man, y'all niggas tripping. In other news, my New York Knicks started off the season with a bang by beating the dog shit out of the Atlanta Hawks. Man, behind super rookie Kevin Knox and a rejuvenated Tim Hardaway Jr., we look to be putting it together, waiting on the return of Kristaps Porzingis. I'm real excited about this season. I smell the goddamn playoffs on the horizon. Now, Jimmy Butler and his saga up in Minnesota seems to be coming full circle. Now, he demanded a goddamn trade because he's tired of the cold weather and the whack-ass players, and he wants out. Well, Miami made an offer for Jimmy Butler, giving up Josh Richardson, Kelly Olynyk, and a protected first-round pick. They had a deal on the table till Minnesota got greedy and wanted more, and Pat Riley said, fuck that, y'all can keep that nigga. We moving on. So, on the opening game for Minnesota, during player introductions, they booed the shit out of Jimmy. But guess what? When you put down 33 points on a sorry-ass team and get a win, he had them motherfuckers cheering and chanting MVP by the end of the night. You fans are so goddamn fickle. It's ridiculous. In other NBA news, you have a story that came out the other day that the NBA G League, the Gatorade League, is now offering $125,000 contracts to 18-year-old players who are coming out of high school, special players who are coming out of high school who are not yet available or eligible to come to the league. Now, me personally, I think that is a great idea, because those kids who are one and done, they ain't going to school to learn. They just going because they have to, just to get that 1 year out the way and go play ball. Now they get a chance to capitalize on their talent immediately out of high school, just like high school baseball players. They also get control of their own narrative and control of their own name and can make money off of themselves from outside sources. Now, you know as well as I know that these shoe companies keep up with these kids just as much as we do when we're watching them. So these kids get to make, again, $125K first year plus endorsement money. That's huge. The only motherfuckers don't like this is the NCAA because it hurts their product, and goddamn LeVar Ball because it's about to kill his JBA. Speaking of the JBA, damn, stories coming out that players ain't getting checks, and these kids have given up their eligibility for college just to get fucked over by this dude. Now, I don't know the whole story, but right now the optics just don't look good for the JBA and the shit that LeVar Ball is doing. By the way, go cop them Zo2s. Man, please. Speaking of that offer that the G League is giving to high school players, it created an interesting conversation between the wage gap and pay discrepancies between the NBA and the WNBA. When that story came out, quite a few of the ladies had a lot to say about this. Now, they feeling some type of way about them not getting paid, and I understand that completely, but my thing is, it is a different ball game. Honestly, no one is paying top dollar to go see the WNBA. And it's a shame, quite honestly, because those ladies are really playing great ball, fundamental ball, but people want to see high-flying dunks. They want to see action, up-tempo action, and they're just not getting the same product. And that shows at the gate. The stands aren't filled, the TV revenue isn't the same. You rarely see WNBA games on TV unless it's the playoffs. Meanwhile, the NBA is on every single day during the season. You can catch any game if you want to nowadays. But I understand where the ladies are coming from, and I sincerely hope that the NBA does something to really help these ladies, because it's, if you look at it, the $125,000 that they're giving to kids out of high school is more than the max contract that an WNBA player is getting right now. So I get where they're coming from. You know, maybe they can allocate some of the funds that the NBA is making to take care of these ladies, because if they don't, that league will fold soon, because all of the top players will be going overseas getting contracts that's 10, 15 times worth more than what they can make here stateside. So come on, NBA, get it together, baby. Over in the NFL, we had a quick trade the other day with the Cleveland Browns sending their running back, Carlos Hyde, to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 5th-round pick. Now, in other times, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but the reason it's a big deal now, because that means that the Jags superstar running back, Leonard Fournette, will be out 6 to 8 weeks. This nigga has killed 2 of my fantasy teams. God damn. So, with that being said, now Carlos Hyde will be sharing carries with the other Jacksonville running back, TJ Yeldon. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out when Leonard Fournette comes back. I don't know. It ain't enough carries to satisfy all 3 of them. Look for somebody to get moved soon, too. In other NFL news, and I say this with the utmost certainty, Nathan Peterman is the worst goddamn quarterback in the NFL. You have to be seriously trash when your own team vote to have a nigga that they pulled off the street 3 days ago to start in your place. Now, how the hell he still got a contract and opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to play in the league when Cap can't even get a single shot? That dude has thrown more interceptions than he has completed passes, and that's crazy as hell. And finally, a story came out the other day that Floyd Mayweather is talking about coming out of retirement to fight the guy that beat the shit out of Conor McGregor. Man, look, I'm a Floyd fan. I love Floyd, but man, stay your ass out of boxing. It's over with, bruh. You made a bunch of goddamn money. It's reported you worth about $1 billion. $1 billion? What the fuck you fighting for, man? Don't tarnish your legacy by fighting these UFC bums. They bums when it comes to boxing. And don't even think about hopping your ass in the octagon against this nigga. He hopped out the octagon to go fight a nigga too on the outside, so you know he'll destroy your ass. These dudes are trying to use you for a come up, Floyd. That is all. They saw how Conor McGregor made $100 million to get beat up by you, so shit, they figure they can get them 10 to 20 real quick. Man, don't do it. Leave this shit alone, man. The thing about it is, you talking about fighting these dudes, I ain't seeing you say shit about fighting the likes of Terrence Crawford, the Charlo twins, or any of them guys, Errol Spence, Kell Brooks. We can keep naming them. So Floyd, stay your ass out of boxing, man. You got a nice stable of fighters you managing. Just make your money off of them. Enjoy the game from the sidelines. Cause you get your ass in the ring against one of them young bulls, your record gonna get towed the fuck up and your legacy will be tarnished. Now that's all I got for you guys. Make sure you tune in next week on the Shade and Shit Talking podcast for This Week in Sports. We've reached the end of another episode of the Shade and Shit Talking podcast. And as always, I really, really thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate the love and support, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you guys. Let me just throw out there real quick that the Black with No Chaser website is up and running, and we have been receiving some phenomenal support from you guys. I hope and pray that you guys continue to support us. Please continue to like, share, and follow us, and bring your friends, family, loved ones on over to the Black with No Chaser website, www.blackwithnochaser.com. We're also still on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram as well. So continue to like, follow, and share those pages and help us to build this into what we believe will be a global phenomenon that is all about the entire diaspora. Also, make sure you check us out on Melanated Millennials Investment Group. Our website there is up and running as well, and we too have been receiving phenomenal support there. And what we're doing there is trying to educate people on the money side of things. We're trying to educate people on stocks and bonds and 401ks and properties and things of that nature to increase the likelihood of financial freedom and physical responsibility, as well as building and obtaining generational wealth. So make sure you are a part of both of those spectacular, informative movements moving forward. Also, once again, Jackson, Mississippi, October the 30th, the judicial review where you guys get to talk to those candidates. Make sure you check that out. October 30th, Jackson, Mississippi at Freelawns. As I said earlier, we are very close to the midterm elections, so it is very important that we all get out and vote and make our voices heard. Get those candidates that really care or say they care about our communities in those seats and hold their ass responsible for their words and their actions, unlike what they're doing with that orange bastard in office right now. So, as always, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and you guys take care.
Oh, thank you.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.